America needs a tidal wave of the old-time religion.
I have sinned against you.
How dare you!
We have no need to doubt God.
The harlot Babylon is preparing the nations to receive the Antichrist.
I didn't even build that house with money from the church. I built it with money from my book.
I don't make this stuff up.
Repenting of your sin.
It is a moral issue.
They got together and swore a pact to the devil.
I just enjoy seeing people worship, praising God.
Hey everybody, and welcome to
Believe It
or Not,
the show where we believe it
or not.
You be the judge.
You be the judge.
Mm-hmm.
How you doing?
I'm good. How are you, Trev?
Doing great.
Glad to hear.
Yeah, I just got off work, took a shower because I slept in this morning.
All right. You work from home?
Yeah. So I usually shower before work, though. Wakes me up, gets me going.
That's fair.
Yeah.
That's fair.
This morning, I slept through my alarm, got up 10 minutes before work, and I'm like, which it's a short commute from my bed to the desk, but
that is fair.
Still.
Well, I mean, I'm glad that you finally clean yourself up afterwards.
Thank you.
After a hard day's work.
It was a hard day's night. Hard days of work. Beatles.
Hard night of work.
Hard night of work.
Mm-hmm. Hard work of night.
Yeah.
Either way. That's good. Glad to hear. How's the job treating you, Trev?
It's pretty good. I'm actually enjoying it, and enjoying being able to work with my cat on my lap.
Yes. Speaking of, it was his birthday. Was
it's his birthday today.
There you go.
Yeah, he turns 4 years old.
Well, happy birthday.
Mm-hmm. And then I'll update you. I'm also, I'll celebrate this, and then May 5th is when I adopted him. So it'll be, he's got 2 birthdays.
Your adoptiversary?
Yeah. My sister had 2 birthdays, when she was born and when she joined the family. And, I'll do that for my cat, too.
Join the family?
Well, when she was adopted. So,
oh, okay.
The birthday one was always hey, celebration. And then the joining the family one was usually my dad just took her for dinner and was like, we love you. But we're not here to talk about this.
All right.
We're here to talk about, so we talked about movies recently with PureFlix. Mm-hmm. We talked about TV with the Televangelists. We talked about music with the rock and Christian rock. And last time we talked about video games with the Wisdom Tree.
We're going the whole media gamut.
Gamut. So why not talk about sports?
Oh, there are Christian sports?
No. I
was going to say, is that like Quidditch?
Yeah, it's kind of like Quidditch. Do you know the Bible verse, John 3:16? Have you heard it?
Isn't that the one about, and then God gave him his only begotten son or some shit like that? Yeah.
Yeah, that's the one. You probably know Austin 3:16 better.
Yeah. I just said that I just kicked your ass or something like that.
Yeah.
I'll find it.
Okay.
Oh, Austin 3:16 just said, I just kicked your ass. That's what it is.
Amazing. Yeah. It's also a great Bible verse.
Yeah, it's my favorite Bible verse, actually.
Yeah. The reason John 3:16 is thrown around in sports, Tim Tebow would put it on his little under thing. He'd have what's that under your eyes, the little black mark?
No, there's always the guy in the sign. He always had the sign.
The sign guy. So that was a guy named of Rollen Stewart. He would wear a rainbow wig, and he would hold up a sign that said John 3:16, and he had a shirt that either said John 3:16 or Jesus Saves or some sort of like Christian message on it. They nicknamed him Rainbow Man or Rockin Rollin, or people would just call him the John 3:16 guy. So that's him, and he started that all. He was born in Spokane, Washington, in 1945. His parents were alcoholics. His father died when he was 10. His mother died in 1968, and his sister, when she was 23, was strangled by her boyfriend.
Oh my God!
He had a bit of a rough go.
Yeah.
He got a pretty sweet inheritance, though, so that's something. For a while, he was a drag racer. He would make money as a drag racer. And then he eventually opened a motorcycle shop. So he was selling vroom vrooms. And then eventually he started a ranch. He bought a ranch, big ranch, and he grew marijuana, sold marijuana, and made some pretty good cash selling the marijuana.
Oh, that's
and
good.
yeah, but then eventually he decided, you know what, I'm going to give all this up. I don't want to do this anymore. I want to go to Hollywood and I want to become an actor.
Oh,
So he sold his ranch. So with the ranch and the inheritance and the money from the weed, he had a pretty good amount of money saved up, so he could risk it and try to make it as an actor. So he goes to Hollywood. He starts auditioning for things or trying to audition for things, and the only thing he got was a Budweiser commercial, which is still pretty cool.
I mean, yeah, if you can get one of those like national commercials that goes around for a while, you can make some decent cash.
Yeah. Oh yeah. But then in 1977, he decided to go to the NBA Finals and ham it up a bit. So he just wore a loincloth and no shirt and a rainbow wig. And he was like doing weird dances and stuff. And he ended up getting on TV and a lot of people started talking about him. And he's like, okay, this is a thing I could keep doing. So he would do that. He would go around to different sporting events, especially like larger, all-star games or World Series and stuff like that. And one day he was in his hotel and there was a televangelist on TV. The show was called Today in Bible Prophecy. So it was all about the end of the world, the rapture.
He watched this in a hotel?
He watched it in a hotel and he realized that he has this platform now. I think he'd been recently born again and saved and all that stuff. So he said, okay,
what was his born again birthday?
Oh, that's a good question.
Do you have a birthday for when you're born again?
Some people do. Some people celebrate it. Yeah.
That's weird.
Yeah.
That's joining the family.
That's joining the family. I had a few of those. I don't remember the dates, but I had a few times where I'm like, did I ever do that? And I would like pray it again.
Yeah.
My parents would be like, no, you did that years ago. I'm like, okay, well, just for safety.
Pray it again, Sam.
Yeah, pray it again, Sam.
That's what he says in the movie, right? Because they're at church.
Yeah. It's the sequel.
Well, it's funny, like just kind of jumping back a little, this guy, like there's so many people who do these things. There's like the people who dress up like Elvis or they just hang out in the end zone. But this guy wanted to make it about Churchy Joe's.
He wanted to make it about Churchy Joe's. So yeah, he made up his sign and then he went to another sporting event and held up the sign. And he started just going around to any sporting event and other things. He went to the royal wedding, like Princess Di. He went to that wedding.
Well, Princess Dead.
Yeah. And held up the sign there. And he was just like, especially all over America. He, what was it, 60,000 miles he said he did or something like that. But just back and forth to different, like the Kentucky Derby and things like that.
How did he afford this?
Basically, he lived in his car.
Okay, so he didn't afford it.
He didn't afford it. He lived in his car. He had that money saved up, and he would get donations from people because he's spreading the word. So people would give him money. Also, scalpers loved him, so they would just give him free tickets. And so sometimes, I think it said 9 times out of 10, he never had to pay. He didn't have to pay to go in.
I mean, hey, this is a good grift if you like going to sporting events.
Yeah, and what he would do is he took a portable TV. He had a little battery-operated TV, and he would see where the cameras were and go in those spots and just try his hardest. He just moved around, just trying to get in as many shots as he could to, spread that word, get that John 3:16 message out there and ham it up for the camera.
Why did he choose John 3:16? Do we know why?
Yeah, he decided that it was kind of cryptic in a way, like people who didn't grow up in the church wouldn't know it, so they would look into it. And then when they read it, he thought it was like just the best summation of how to become a Christian. And
do you have the full verse? Because I actually looked up Austin 3:16 is I just whooped your ass. Sorry.
Okay, yeah.
Do we have the proper for John 3:16?
Yeah, for God so loved the world that he gave his only begotten son, that whosoever believeth in him shall not perish but have eternal life.
I mean, that is a pretty good log line for the Bible.
Yeah, it sums it up pretty good.
Yeah, like that's the elevator pitch. Here you go from there.
Yeah.
See what happens in season 2,
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, actually the book of John is the one that's more like theological. The other gospels are like just telling what happened and what he said and stuff.
More of a history.
Yeah, and then the book of John was more like the writer saying, like trying to summarize what Christianity was and what this newfangled religion was. And it was also the last one written probably in like 180 or something like that.
So it's kind of like almost like the appendices.
Yeah, exactly.
Right. Like reading a Tolkien book.
Exactly. And then, so he started going around and he started, just for pretty much all through the 80s, he was just nonstop. You could see him at sporting events. Directors of, the camera directors and stuff like that for the sports events hated him. At first, it was like this novelty thing, but then eventually, they were just so sick of him trying to get on camera all the time, and so just the one interview I saw was a guy talking about how he would just tell his cameraman, if he gets on TV tonight, you're looking for a new job. He was just so sick of him. So any angle they could do to get him out of there and just try to avoid getting on TV. But he was just so crafty and he would get on so often, and they'd be so frustrated because it'd be like this dramatic sports shot and there's this goofball in the back with his rainbow hair and sign. And
I don't get why would you be mad? There's always goofballs on
it's true.
Sporting things, and people love them or hate them. It doesn't. Just ignore them. Just let it happen.
Yeah. I guess he went through 80 wigs through this time because they would get dirty and gross, and he'd have to get a new one. It was like covered a clown kind of. Yeah. Mm-hmm. In this time, he was married. In his life, he was married 4 times.
He wasn't very good at it then.
No. In the 1986 World Series, right after that happened, his wife at the time filed for divorce and said that he started choking her because she held up a sign wrong or something like that, and he got really mad and started choking her. Yeah. And around that same time, he totaled his car. And he's really starting to run out of money. So he can't get a new car. He's in LA. And he basically, he's now he's a homeless guy in LA. He thought that more people would join this and it'd be a huge movement of everybody holding up these signs at sporting events and stuff. But it wasn't as big as he thought it was. And he was getting really frustrated with this. And there's definitely mental illness starts creeping in, and he starts realizing that let's do something bigger. Let's go bigger and make a more of a scene. So he started doing these timed things at sporting events where he'd sneak in, and there was the U.S. Open or the Masters, the 1990 Masters golf tournament. Jack Nicklaus was about to swing.
Jack Nicholson.
He was about to swing, and an air horn went off and threw off his swing. And he set this up on a timer so that he screwed over the shot. And then there was a boxing tournament where he set up stink bombs and fireworks to go off during the match.
Basically, he was an asshole for the Lord.
And then he starts getting into stink bombs at non-sporting events. So he went into a newspaper in LA called The Register, I think, and he put a stink bomb in the lobby, like a big smoke stink bomb, that with a note saying that he was the Antichrist and that the rapture wasn't happening. So he wrote this note from the perspective of the Antichrist, saying that it's the rapture's not going to happen and stuff, as a way to try to scare people into believing. And and he starts doing more. He stink bombed the Crystal Cathedral, with that.
That's the televangelist guy, right?
Yeah. So during a Good Friday service, he did that, and then he did it to Trinity Broadcasting Network and a Christian bookstore, and just saying that, he just kept saying that their actions stink to God and that they were not showing the proper message and blaspheming and all this stuff. So he was he was going off the deep end.
Right.
Yeah. So
definitely all over the place.
Yeah.
I mean, I agree that a lot of those places are not really saying good messages.
No, they really aren't.
Not for the same reasons that this guy is.
Yeah, but I'm not going to do terrorist attacks on them. But so he was wanted by the FBI because he was already kind of famous and known. It was making the news and kind of going all over. And I guess he had kids from a couple of his marriages, and so they would see on TV that, hey, Dad's doing this stuff now. And so he's wanted by the FBI, and there's a manhunt for him. And then in 1992. So this is when it gets nuts. I mean, it's already nuts.
Wait, okay, so He's had so many people in his life die. He's had several marriages.
Yeah.
His car's gone. He's gone off the deep end. He's stink bombing, terrorist attacking churches and bookstores. Yeah. This guy is cuckoo bananas all over the place.
All over the place. Yeah.
So much is going on. He probably needs to get help from somebody, but he's not going to. And it's going to get worse.
It's going to get worse. So he hires 2 day laborers. Mm-hmm. And he says that, hey, I got some work for you to do. They go back to a hotel, and it quickly becomes apparent that he's trying to use them as hostages. Because he's already got one of the maids from the hotel as a hostage. And the guys quickly escape. The maid locks herself in the bathroom from him, and the SWAT team is called, and the police are called in, and there's I think an 8-hour standoff. He tells the police that he wants to have a news conference, and he wants news crews down there so he could talk to them, let them know, because it's really all about the message still, and he wants to let everybody know in 6 days the rapture is going to happen, and the Lord's going to come back in 6 days. He also has a bunch of the stink bombs, but he's got a .45 caliber handgun as well.
I figured that's why they would have an 8-hour standoff with him.
Yeah. And it was also a hotel right by the airport, and he kept saying he was going to start shooting at airplanes because he had like an overview of like runways and stuff. So
that happens pretty frequently, doesn't it, with planes? I think people shoot at planes a lot.
Yeah, I bet. Yeah, that sounds. I don't think that's a good idea.
No, but I think that is a common thing that happens.
Yeah, isn't there like a bunch of deaths a year too from like people shooting their guns in the air?
Oh, probably.
Yeah, and then it lands bullets somewhere else.
Come back down.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Bad idea alert, I say.
I agree.
Yeah. But yeah, I guess after the police did not allow him to get to have a news conference, but eventually he gets arrested. They like storm the hotel room and make sure that the hostage is safe, arrest him, and then there's obviously news crews out there because it's a big hostage situation. So as he's being put in the car, then he starts giving his little warning, and he's happy and feels vindicated that he was at least able to tell some people. And then obviously, I don't know if you follow the news from the 90s, but the rapture didn't happen in 92.
I mean, I wasn't very closely following it because I was 0 to 10 at the time. So,
right.
I was in that age range, so the news wasn't an important part of my life.
No, okay. Yeah, so...
But I noticed it didn't happen.
Didn't happen. So he gets arrested, he goes to trial, and the prosecutors are trying to give him a plea deal. Plead guilty, and we'll give you 12 years in prison. So yeah, he's like, oh no, I want to go to trial, because then there's more media coverage, and they're going to... more chances to spread the good word, spread the message of the rapture happening right around the corner. And so he goes to trial. He's found guilty on 3 counts of kidnapping and hostage taking with a weapon. I don't know if that's the proper word. Taking. And threatening to shoot airplanes. So he's found guilty of all of the stuff. Yeah. And he is given 3 consecutive life sentences and is still in prison to this day. He started a blog while he was in prison, though, to try to get the word out there still about the rapture is going to happen soon. He writes letters from jail to different people to try to warn them, different televangelists, news organizations. Yeah, and he's still doing it, I think, and still like trying to get the word out there. There was an interview in 2004 where he said he somewhat regrets what he did.
Right. I feel like he's not in the place he should be. I don't think he should be in jail. I think he should be...
I think you're right. Yeah.
In a psychiatric facility.
I agree.
Something to deal with his mental health that is not being addressed.
Yeah. I think there's a lot wrong with especially in America, but in Canada too, just a lot wrong with the way prisons work and the way we just lock people up instead of getting them the help they need.
Well, it's a for-profit business.
Yeah.
So in the States especially, right?
Yeah.
So it's all about the money.
And didn't Biden just do an executive order about that? I think he's at least trying to cut down the amount of for-profit prisons. But
Right.
yeah, actually, my friend tweeted today. My friend's a defense attorney, whatchamacallit, a court-appointed defense attorney in Florida. She has some really good insights on the prison systems and stuff like that. And she was just venting today about how tired she is of judges saying today's your lucky day before like locking someone up in a cage for 3 years because they could have got 12 or whatever. And it's like, she's just getting so sick of just the way the justice system works.
Today's your lucky day.
Yeah. Yeah, he said he somewhat feels bad about what he did because the timing was off. And if he had done it before the rapture, then he wouldn't feel bad about it because at least he was getting the word out there. And he basically said, if, my kid's in a burning building, there's nothing you're going to do to stop me from going in there and getting them out. And I feel the same where, there's nothing I'm going to do to stop from getting this message out there.
I mean, that's kind of the crux of it, though. I mean, a lot of stuff that people do in the name of religion, it's coming from that kind of sincere point of view, I guess. And that's when they do like all this stuff that they justify in the name of like, well, I want to get this out. That's like people who protest abortions. It's like they genuinely believe they're doing the right thing for the Lord and saving babies, or all of this stuff. Less so, I think, on the legislative side. I think a lot of the big people who are pushing this are doing this for money and power and not for their belief systems. But that's a different discussion. So so it's a very fine line, I think. I don't know if it necessarily. It's one of those gray areas, right?
Yeah, and like you said, there's. Yeah, sorry.
You can't just blanket statement that, this is mental illness.
Yeah, but it sounds more like it's mental illness matched with lunacy beliefs. Like just crazy beliefs, and so you match that together, and it's not a pretty picture. But it's like, Penn Jillette even has that thing about, he talked about how if you actually believe that your friend is going to go to hell and you're not telling them about Christ, then you have a problem too. Where it's like, like, I don't know. I don't think I would hold somebody hostage for a message like that, but I'm also not in.
What would you hold someone hostage for?
That's a good question. Probably not anything.
No?
I don't know. I can't think of anything.
Not even free appetizers for a year at the Applebee's?
At Applebee's? Oh yeah, that I didn't even think of that. Yeah, that I would do.
Okay, cool.
Yeah, 100%.
Cool.
Yeah. All right. What else? Any other things on Rollin, on the Rainbow Man? I think we covered it all. I think there's a lot of stuff there, but that's pretty. Yeah.
It started off as a very. I don't want to say it was a lighthearted story because it wasn't. Because it did start off in tragedy.
Yeah.
With a lot of death and.
Because you think about this character and you see pictures of him from the 80s, you're not going to think of it as the tragic story that it is.
No, it's very like goofy. Goofy guy, fun at sports. He holds his religion sign, whatever.
Yeah.
But no, it's just sad.
Yeah, and you still see signs, John 3:16 signs at sports games.
I saw the sign.
I think he's in a lot of like a kind of a similar type person is in a lot of video games in the background in the audience with the John 3:16 sign, or at least with the rainbow hair.
They put that in to color it up, make it seem more like, this is like a real sports game.
Exactly. Yeah. I think they made a documentary of him in the 90s. Any other thoughts on this fella?
I don't know. It's sad that he was just locked up for reasons I think that are bigger than just him being a violent person.
Yeah.
It clearly sounds like, just looking at the way he lived his life, you know that something, he was probably very close to like just being like he was homeless, but you know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
I think he still had enough of his faculties that he was able to kind of like keep it together enough that he had a vehicle and he was like traveling around and doing something like that. I think if he was just a little further along, he would probably just be like on the streets.
Yeah, it's true.
So
yeah.
And that like ties in, that's a bigger problem as well. Like a lot of these people aren't able to get the help, or those resources aren't there. And I mean, it's also how do you know until you get to a certain point, right?
Yeah, exactly. And the thing too, yeah, he's always been denied parole because he hasn't shown regret, and so he's just gonna keep. Yeah,
that's such a weird kind of standard that they have for. Well, how do we prove that this person is rehabilitated? They have to show regret.
Yeah,
like it's such a phony kind of metric in order to base these things
exactly,
by.
Yeah.
Like, well, are you sorry?
Yeah.
Like, yeah, I'm sorry. It's like, well, I don't think you're really sorry.
Yeah.
And all of it is quantified by the people who are judging you, and you don't know what their biases are or what their knowledge of this stuff is, right? It's such a bizarre, fucked up way to kind of decide, like, oh, should we keep this person in a cage or not, right?
Yeah. I don't like it, but
I don't either.
Should we move on to a Christian rock lyric?
Yeah. Let's move on from this depressing bullshit about.
Can't you see you're not making Christianity better? You're just making rock and roll worse.
This song's called Banner Man.
Is this about the guy?
It's about the guy, written in 93, but I don't think it's by Steve Taylor, who I enjoy, and this song is an earworm, like it does get stuck in your head. But I don't think he realized. I think he just saw the guy on TV wrote this song and then didn't follow the story, because he was already in prison at this point. But this song is not about that. So
wait, he went to prison in 92?
Yeah, 92. Yeah.
He could have wrote it and recorded it in 92.
Yeah, definitely. So. Yeah.
And then just didn't follow the news.
Yeah. And you didn't have the internet back then, so you couldn't be like, where's this guy now?
Yeah, you have to go to your local library or something.
Ask your librarian, where's this guy now? And the librarian would say,
how the fuck would I know?
Yeah.
Keep it down, pal.
Let's see, where should I go from? I'm just going to pick a spot in here. Primetime football in the Buffalo snow, freezing his little epidermis. Lifts the banner at the first field goal. Drinks clam chowder from a thermos. He's never missed a game. He never spells it wrong. He never talks back when they tell him move along. He don't worry about the critics. They'll howl for days. He don't worry about the cynics. They'll navel gaze. He ain't gonna change the world, but he knows who can. Banner Man.
Was he a big Buffalo fan, or was it just... Oh, I guess they would have been at the Super Bowl a couple of years.
Yeah, he went to the Super Bowl a number of times. Yeah.
That would be why. Okay.
Yeah, it's all about how this guy's going to save the world and change the world. And
little did they know.
Yeah.
He did not.
He did not. Now, this song is actually how I originally heard about this guy and looked into what his deal was. Yeah.
I mean, I heard of him just from seeing him, and it's kind of been like a pop culture thing.
Yeah,
there are lookalikes and other people who do this stuff for notoriety, but the story got dark very fast.
It did. It really did. Yeah you think of it as just like this fun little, oh, that's cute, but no, it got dark.
Yeah.
Yeah. Wow. All right, folks. This has been Believe It or Not, and we've enjoyed your company
as we always do
on this journey. So
and if you want to put up banners of Believe It or Not at your sporting events and on the TV, please do.
Please
spread the word.
Spread the love. Spread the word. Get your friends out there, and thanks so much.
Bye.
Bye. Work, Sky Moon.